Hey, soul survivors. Yesterday, I did a video on postpartum depression, and this can actually be helpful if you are struggling with depression in general. However, postpartum depression is after a baby is no longer within a woman. So it can happen after birth, stillborn, abortion, or miscarriage, and it affects many people. So I'm going to talk about all the different, some statistics, some things that can help, why it happens, but it is also known as PPD, which is postpartum depression. And it's a big concern for many new mothers or people that have lost a pregnancy. And not a lot of people talk about it. And some people can start to have severe depression. And it's crucial to understand its potential impact on mental health. So these statistics are a year or two old, but the prevalence, approximately 10 to 15% of new mothers will go through postpartum depression. Although the rates can vary, it's essential to note that postpartum depression is kind of like a mood disorder. It includes anxiety, adjustment disorders. These are all relatively common, and they can impact a larger percentage of women when you start expanding it out. Sometimes we worry, is the baby still breathing while they're sleeping? Or, if we lost a child, did I do everything right? Did I make mistakes? Why did this happen? And it can emerge at any time, whether it's within the first year of giving birth or at any trimester. Our bodies start going through different hormonal things, and the loss can happen at any time. Sometimes we don't even know if we're pregnant. So the symptoms typically appear within the first 3 weeks postpartum. So this is significant to know that as a pregnant woman who has lost a child or had an abortion, that your body is still going through adjustments. And it's not limited to immediate postpartum period. It can develop even months after the baby is no longer with your body. And there are certain risk factors that can increase the risk of having PPD, postpartum depression. And this can be a history of depression. Are you more prone to the depressive modes? It can also be increased if you have a lack of social support, stressful life events, hormonal fluctuations. Have you been struggling with your hormones? Also, sleep deprivation will increase these as risk factors. And some of the symptoms of this type of depression or depression in general, it can include persistent, ongoing feelings of sadness. Sometimes you feel hopeless, irritable, changes in your appetite, sleep patterns, fatigue where you're sleepy, wanting to sleep, not do anything. If you have difficulty bonding with the baby or maintaining your relationships or expressing your feelings, people sometimes have thoughts of self-harm or harming the baby. So if you've had a live birth, be aware that these feelings can happen, and controlling your actions and trying to get some help. I do one-on-ones. There's also therapy. Also, NAMI, I have free resources listed. Comment below if you'd like that link. And untreated postpartum depression can have negative consequences for both the mother, if it's a live birth, also the infant or relationships, and it can affect the woman's ability to care for herself, and it can interfere with the development of a healthy bond if you have your child. And also it does affect other relationships and how you feel about yourself sometimes. So we have to get back to being ourselves, and obstetricians will often use screening tools that help identify women at risk of having PPD during prenatal, which is before the birth, postnatal, even if you've lost a child, that afterwards, sometimes you need to see what they have to say about it. Is this normal, what we're feeling? And prompt, quick diagnosis and also intervention can be crucial for effective management. Sometimes it gets so overwhelming when we start going through and getting in like a triggered state or a desperate state, or even just being so exhausted, because it's hard on your body, regardless of what happened, and encouraging women to build strong support systems is essential. It can be friends, family members, healthcare professionals. Sometimes we feel alone. We don't have anybody to talk to, or we don't want to feel like a burden, but there are people who want to help you and want to listen and talk about it and give some advice. That's cognitive behavioral therapy, interpersonal therapy known as IPT. These have been shown to be effective in treating issues such as postpartum depression. It can be helpful in depression as well. And they provide a supportive space for women to explore and address their feelings. Sometimes when we just don't want to deal with it and we want to put it out of our head, it starts stewing within us and it'll start to boil over. So there is a grieving process that we need to go through. The quicker we do that, the quicker we recognize and deal with the feelings that are surfacing, the quicker we will heal from this. And sometimes medication may be recommended, especially a moderate to severe cases. They can prescribe antidepressants such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are known as SSRIs. Serotonin is like a feel-good hormone. So sometimes we're missing that hormone, and it can kind of balance what's going on in our brain because the serotonin is related to the brain, and even lifestyle changes. Make sure you're staying healthy, including regular exercise, balanced diet, sufficient sleep, and that can positively impact your mood. And when you start getting moving, objects in motion stay in motion, and objects that stay still. Sometimes you fall down that social media rabbit hole, or not wanting to do things, and it'll start to become a habit. So choose healthy habits. Educating women and their families about the signs and symptoms of PPD is very important because early recognition and intervention will significantly improve your outcomes. So the incident rate, it's about 10 to 15% of women will have postpartum depression. And remember, this can happen too after the loss of a child. So these rates can vary depending on cultural differences, socioeconomic status, and individual risk factors, such as a higher stressed life. You already have that stress in your life, and it can compound things. Women who have experienced PPD in a previous pregnancy have an increased risk of experiencing it again. So it's good to be knowledgeable about that because it can happen in subsequent pregnancies. And due to unreported people who don't want to deal with a possible stigma, it's believed that a lot of cases of PPD can go undiagnosed, and improved awareness and education can contribute to better identification and support. And if you're going through overwhelming sadness, where you have constant feelings of emptiness or sadness, often where it feels like it's coming from out of the blue, these are common. These are the common symptoms that we see. And this sadness can be intense. And understanding what you're going through can be helpful, because that way you know that there are things that can help. So it can start to interfere with daily functioning. And, there's anxiety. It's a related condition. Many women with PPD will experience heightened anxiety, including excessive worry, restlessness, and irritability. So your worry can go towards the child, or did I do something wrong? Will I ever have another child again? Will my boyfriend or husband still love me? All these kind of things that start going through our head. And some women start feeling depression. They might feel guilty about not enjoying motherhood, or not enjoying life anymore, or not being able to be engaged. And this guilt can also contribute to this cycle that can happen with these negative emotions. So these women often can withdraw from social activities. So you start becoming isolated, and we're social beings. We need that connection. and it can cause you to feel disconnected from your friends and family. And this isolation actually exacerbates our feelings of loneliness and contribute to the severity of the depression. And we have to realize that there can be difficulty in bonding. So if you do have a live birth, that the sooner you heal, the better your relationship with your child is. The sooner you heal, if you've lost a child, the better your body will be ready for another child if you decide you would like to pursue that. And if you had an abortion, the quicker that you identify what's going on, the quicker you can feel being back to who you are, a healthy, happy person. And there are untreated postpartum depression. It can start to be long-term if we don't take care of it, and it'll affect our mental health. It can increase the risk of persistent depressive disorder, chronic anxiety, or other mental health conditions. So the sooner you either schedule a one-on-one or talk to a therapist, or possibly your church, mosque, synagogue, if you have people who can help you. PPD can strain relationships with your partner, family members, and friends, and communication can start to suffer, and the overall family dynamic can be negatively affected. Some people don't understand it. Some people might have had different thoughts about what happened. Should it have happened? Should it have not have happened? Some might be happy, some might be sad, some might understand, some might think you're being selfish, but you are going through what you are going through. And we have friends that we can rely on that understand us. Not every friend's going to understand us. And if it becomes too much of a burden on one person where you need help with your emotions, that sometimes it's good to talk to a therapist. It takes a little stress off of the friend relationship because they want to be there for you, but there's only so much they can do. And sometimes we do have to reach out to others. And the emotional well-being of the mother is closely tied to the child's development. So that's important to recognize. PPD can potentially affect the infant's cognitive and emotional development. And this is why it's so important. Also, if in severe cases, it can lead to thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Self-harm can be anything from cutting or problems with eating disorders or suicidal ideation. So these hormone changes, the fluctuations, particularly estrogen and progesterone, play a role in this onset of the postpartum depression, because these hormones experience significant changes during this pregnancy and the baby coming out. So all of a sudden there's a drop in these levels after delivery or after the miscarriage or abortion, and it can affect mood and emotional well-being. There are biological factors, such as some women may be more susceptible to developing this due to genetic or neurochemical factors. Also, a family history of depression or other mental health disorders can increase this risk. So pre-existing mental health conditions, such as that history of depression, anxiety, bipolar, these can contribute to the development of PPD. And high levels of stress, inadequate coping mechanisms, and a history of trauma may increase vulnerability. There are stressful life events. So when you lack the support, financial difficulties can make you feel trapped, isolated, unable to seek help. If you guys are struggling, I do videos for people free of charge. If you want a one-on-one, I do charge for that. But if you have certain concerns, comment below, and I'm here to help you guys. I will address the issues with either a message back or a video free of charge. So the demands of caring for a newborn, or even just getting back on track, letting your body heal. There is blood loss that happens, and your physical health can be altered for a while. You might be anemic, which can make you feel weak. and that's due to low iron. But expectations versus reality. There are discrepancies between a woman's expectation of motherhood or of what they thought was meant for their life, and the reality of the experience can lead to feelings of disappointment, guilt, inadequacy, contributing to postpartum depression. So not only are your hormones affecting your mood, your physical status, the state your body is in, how tired you are, but also this is important, the hormonal thyroid changes. There are changes in your thyroid function, such as postpartum thyroiditis. When you hear that at the end of a medical term, it usually means swelling. So your thyroid can swell. It can also influence mood and contribute to depressive symptoms. So your thyroid is important. It regulates a lot of our body functions, and it even affects our mood. So if it's out of whack, it can also deal with our weight. There's a lot of things about that. So risk, the exact mechanisms behind this association, they're not fully understood, but the stress and hormonal changes can really play a part in the depression. And it's important to have mental health during the pregnancy. And if you have any mental health concerns during a pregnancy or subsequent ones, to keep yourself mentally healthy to deal with the hormonal changes you'll have when the baby is no longer in your body. So nutritional considerations. Some studies suggest a potential link between nutritional deficiencies, such as omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D, certain minerals, and an increased risk of perinatal mood disorders. Ensuring a well-balanced diet and appropriate supplementation under the guidance of a healthcare provider can be beneficial. What is healthy for us? What does our body need? Mind and body practices, integrative approaches. These can include mindfulness-based interventions. Also, a lot of people enjoy yoga, and it has shown promise in reducing the symptoms of depression and anxiety during pregnancy, postpartum, or even just in life. So these practices help with your overall well-being. And there is more and more research that's emerging that is exploring the genetic factors that can influence the susceptibility to perinatal mood disorders. And understanding these genetic components can lead to more personalized approaches to prevention and treatment. And we have to realize there is that grieving process. We have to be prepared if there are subsequent pregnancies, that what the impact can be. And the collaborative care model, integrated care, adopting a collaborative care model that involves obstetricians, mental health professionals, support networks can provide comprehensive care for women during pregnancy and postpartum. This multidisciplinary approach addresses both physical and mental health aspects. Our body and mind work together, and when one is out of whack, it makes it harder on the other one. I hope that was helpful. Big hugs to you guys. Postpartum depression is real, and it can really affect you. So if you're struggling with suicidal ideation, 988 in America is the suicide hotline. I have resources. If you type in free resources, you can get NAMI, N-A-M-I. Let me know if you're struggling. I'll post some links, share some stories so people don't feel that they're all alone. I went through miscarriages, and it's hard, but we can get through this. There are ways to help, but addressing the issue is extremely important so you can get back to being happy, because you deserve to be happy.